Happiness is often misunderstood in today's world. We're taught to chase it, strive for it, and talk about it endlessly. But what if I told you that one of the most powerful secrets to happiness is to shut up when you're happy? When you're happy, don't feel the need to explain it, to justify it, or to announce it. Let your happiness speak for itself. Too often we talk ourselves out of joy. We start analyzing why we feel good, dissecting every little moment. And in that moment, we may unintentionally begin to focus on the things that could go wrong, the challenges we might face. Silence, on the other hand, allows happiness to grow, to settle deeply within you without external distractions. Think about it. When you're truly happy, you're not thinking about the future or the past. You're simply in the moment, appreciating what is. Talking too much about it can dilute the magic of that experience. Sometimes the simplest and most profound joy comes from simply being in that state rather than expressing it. True happiness doesn't need validation. It doesn't need to be shared to be real. You don't need to convince anyone else that you're happy, and you certainly don't need to compare your happiness with others. In fact, the more you talk about your happiness, the more you run the risk of inviting doubt, both from others and from your own mind. The happiest people often are the quietest about their joy. Their smiles, their actions, and their energy are enough. They know that happiness is internal, it is a state of being, not a performance for the world. The quieter you are in your joy, the more powerful it becomes. Next time you feel that wave of happiness, take a deep breath and enjoy it. Let the world see it in the way you walk, in the way you move, in the way you interact. Let it be an unspoken declaration of your inner peace. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself and the world is to simply shut up and be happy. Silence amplifies happiness by allowing you to focus on the moment without distraction. When you are quiet, the joy you feel can become more intense, uninterrupted by external noise. Talking too much about your happiness can dilute its impact, reducing its authenticity. A calm, peaceful demeanor reflects inner contentment far better than words ever could. Embrace silence as a tool to enhance the happiness you already possess. True happiness doesn't need validation from others, as it comes from within. The more you seek external approval for your joy, the more you shift your focus from your inner peace. When you find contentment within yourself, you become less reliant on others' opinions. The power of happiness lies in its ability to stand independently from any outside influence. Recognize that your happiness is yours alone, and it doesn't require any external reinforcement. Less talk means more peace. Constantly vocalizing your happiness may lead to overanalyzing and unnecessary complications. By remaining quiet, you preserve the simplicity of your joy. Peace is not something to be spoken of incessantly, but something to be felt and cherished in silence. True happiness grows when you allow yourself the space to simply be without explaining yourself to others. Happiness is a personal experience, not a performance for others to witness. The more you talk about your joy, the more it becomes an act you perform for an audience, rather than a genuine feeling you experience. Your happiness doesn't need to be showcased or demonstrated, it can be quietly felt and lived. The best moments of joy are often the ones we experience without broadcasting them to the world. Revel in the authenticity of your own happiness without turning it into a show. When you are happy, let your energy speak for itself. Your presence will naturally radiate happiness without needing to say a word. Words can sometimes create expectations or obligations that don't exist in your natural joy. By being silent, you allow your mood to influence the world around you in the most organic way. True happiness is contagious, but it's more effective when it's shared silently through your actions and your energy. Happiness is most powerful in its quietness. When you are quiet about your joy, you experience it more deeply. Over-explaining or over-analyzing happiness takes away from its spontaneity. The peace and contentment you feel don't need to be dissected, they just need to be embraced. Silence enables you to fully immerse yourself in your own happiness without the pressure of vocalizing it to the world. The more you talk about happiness, the more you risk losing it. Words often lead us to overthink our emotions, questioning their validity. Once you start talking about your happiness, you might begin to focus on potential worries or challenges that could interfere. Silence preserves the purity of your joy, allowing you to simply enjoy the feeling without distractions. Sometimes the best way to hold on to happiness is by keeping it to yourself. Silence allows joy to settle deeper within you. When you're quiet, you create a mental space for happiness to expand, uninterrupted by external noise or expectations. Words can sometimes bring external influences into your peaceful state, pulling you out of the moment. But in silence, joy can flourish in its purest form, enhancing your sense of fulfillment. By keeping quiet, you make room for happiness to grow within. Don't let the world distract you from your peace. Outside opinions and constant chatter can pull you away from your internal happiness. By staying silent, you protect your peace from external judgments and opinions. You are the keeper of your happiness, and no one else's words should diminish it. Focus on your own contentment and stay grounded in your own experience. Sometimes silence is the loudest expression of happiness. There is power in stillness. When you are genuinely happy, you don't need to shout it from the rooftops. Your smile, your demeanor, your calm presence all reflect the joy within you. Silence speaks volumes in its simplicity and authenticity. In the quietest moments, the depth of your happiness can be felt the strongest. Being happy doesn't require an audience. Your joy is something personal and intimate, not something that needs to be broadcasted to the world. When you allow happiness to be private, you create space for it to grow, untainted by external influences. There's nothing wrong with sharing your joy, but there's also nothing wrong with keeping it to yourself. Let your happiness be yours and yours alone, free from the need for others to witness it. Joy doesn't need to be explained, just experienced. The beauty of happiness lies in its simplicity. When you start explaining why you're happy or justifying it to others, you might complicate it. Instead, let the feeling wash over you and enjoy it for what it is, not for what you think it should be. Happiness is pure when it is just felt without any need for elaboration. Happiness doesn't require confirmation from others. You don't need anyone else to tell you that you're allowed to be happy or that your happiness is valid. When you are truly content, the approval of others becomes irrelevant. Your joy doesn't need permission, and it certainly doesn't need to be acknowledged by anyone else. Embrace your happiness, regardless of how others perceive it. True contentment thrives in solitude, not in crowds. When you are alone, free from distractions and external expectations, you can connect with your inner peace. Crowds may give a temporary sense of joy, but they can also interfere with your personal contentment. Happiness found in solitude is more profound, as it is entirely your own. You don't need anyone else to validate your peace when you're content on your own. Talking about happiness may dilute its purity. Words often complicate what is meant to be simple and pure. When you constantly talk about how happy you are, you might end up questioning its authenticity or bringing in outside influences. The true essence of happiness is experienced in silence, when you are simply enjoying the moment. Silence protects your happiness from unnecessary distortion. Happiness is not an invitation for judgment, but an invitation to live. When you start talking about your happiness, you open the door to others' opinions, which can sometimes cast doubt. You might find that the more you talk about it, the more others may judge or challenge it. True joy is experienced when you live it without concern for others' judgment. Keep your happiness to yourself and let it be your own invitation to a fulfilling life. The happiest people often speak the least about their happiness. They don't need to announce their joy to feel it, they live it quietly and effortlessly. The quieter a person is about their happiness, the more visible their contentment becomes. Actions speak louder than words, and often happiness is communicated most powerfully through the way someone moves through life. Be a living example of happiness without needing to shout about it. Embrace the stillness that comes with happiness. There is no need to fill the quiet moments with words when you're content. Happiness often thrives in the absence of talk, in the peaceful embrace of the present moment. When you're still, your happiness becomes a part of you, woven into your very being. Learn to enjoy happiness in silence where it is felt most deeply. Let your actions speak for your happiness, not your words. Happiness is something that can be seen, not necessarily heard. Your joyful actions, your kindness, and your peaceful presence all reflect your happiness far more than any words could. Don't waste time explaining how happy you are, just live it. Your happiness will shine through in everything you do without the need for verbal confirmation. Silence keeps your happiness untouched by others' opinions. When you're quiet about your joy, you are less likely to be influenced by the judgments or expectations of others. People often have their own ideas about what happiness should look like, but when you remain silent, you protect your happiness from outside interference. Keep your joy to yourself and let it be yours alone, untainted by external views. True happiness is yours to define. Happiness is contagious when you live it quietly. When you are genuinely happy and not constantly talking about it, others can feel it. Your positive energy radiates through your actions and the way you carry yourself. It's not your words, but your presence that has the power to inspire happiness in others. The quieter you are about your happiness, the more others will be drawn to it without you needing to say a word. Enjoy the simplicity of happiness without complicating it. Happiness doesn't need to be analyzed or explained to be real. It is enough to simply feel happy without attaching conditions or reasons to it. The more you try to make sense of happiness, the more you risk complicating it. Embrace its simplicity and allow yourself to experience it without overthinking. Happiness is strongest when shared without words. When you share your happiness with others, let your actions do the talking. Sometimes a smile or a kind gesture can communicate more than 1,000 words ever could. You don't have to announce your joy, let your presence and energy be the message. True happiness is found in connection, not in explanation. Contentment doesn't need to be verbalized to be real. You don't have to declare your happiness to anyone for it to exist. True contentment is a quiet force, existing in the background of your life without the need for constant acknowledgement. Let your joy live in your actions and your mindset, not in your conversations. Being content is enough. It doesn't need to be proven to anyone else. Silence is the true language of joy. Words often fall short when trying to describe deep emotions like happiness. The quiet moments, the peaceful stillness of contentment, communicate far more than words ever can. Happiness is a language that can be understood through your energy, your smile, and your calm demeanor. Speak less. Sometimes the happiest people are the quietest people. They understand that joy doesn't need to be shouted from the rooftops to be real. Their happiness is expressed through their actions, their presence, and their peace of mind. These individuals are content without seeking attention for it, knowing that true happiness comes from within. The less they talk about their happiness, the more it radiates in their daily life. There is no need to explain your happiness, it's yours. Happiness is a personal state of being, not something you owe others an explanation for. Every moment of joy doesn't need to be justified or validated by others. It stands strong on its own. When you try to explain happiness, you may dilute its purity. Embrace it for what it is, not for how it should be perceived. In silence, happiness can be felt deeper than spoken. When you don't talk about your happiness, you give yourself the space to fully immerse in the emotion. Words can often interrupt the flow of joy, but silence allows it to unfold and deepen. By staying quiet, you experience a fuller, more profound happiness. In those quiet moments, joy becomes a part of you in ways that words can never express. When you talk too much about happiness, you risk taking away its value. Constantly explaining your joy can lead to overthinking and questioning whether it's as real as it feels. Words can complicate what should be a simple and pure emotion. Keep your happiness to yourself, and it will retain its value and authenticity. Silence preserves the integrity of your joy, keeping it untainted by external influences. Happy people are often too busy enjoying life to talk about it. Their joy is not something they need to announce or seek attention, for they live it. They focus on the moment, experiencing each one fully without the need for validation. By enjoying life without talking about it, they preserve the purity of their happiness. Happiness becomes part of their everyday routine, not something they need to broadcast. When you're happy, just be. Don't feel the need to discuss it. Happiness doesn't need to be explained to anyone, it's felt within. The less you talk about your joy, the more you can enjoy it fully. Embrace the feeling and allow it to flow naturally. Simply existing in happiness allows it to expand within you, while over-talking can sometimes limit it. True happiness is unapologetic and silent. You don't need to justify your happiness to anyone. When you're happy, it's because you deserve to be, and that's all that matters. Happiness is yours to own without explanation or apology. Let it be a quiet strength that carries you through life, unshaken by the opinions of others. Don't dilute your joy with unnecessary words. When you talk too much about your happiness, it can often lose its spontaneity. Let your joy flow naturally, without the need for explanation. The less you speak about it, the more you give space for it to grow. Keep your happiness simple and pure by enjoying it without overanalyzing it. Silence is the space where happiness expands. When you are quiet, you create an environment for joy to grow. Words can often interfere with the natural flow of happiness, but silence leaves room for it to blossom. By staying still in your joy, you allow it to deepen and spread within. Happiness expands in the quiet moments where you are fully present. Happiness grows best in stillness, not in chatter. When you talk about happiness, you often introduce doubt, uncertainty, or external expectations. In silence, happiness has the freedom to flourish without being questioned or analyzed. The stillness of contentment provides the perfect environment for joy to thrive. Keep your happiness to yourself, and it will naturally grow. Let your contentment show through your actions, not your speech. Happiness is reflected in the way you carry yourself, in your kindness, and your inner peace. The more you talk about your happiness, the less it is reflected in your behavior. When you live your happiness without explaining it, others will feel it more deeply. Actions speak louder than words ever will. Silence keeps your happiness untouched by others' opinions. The more you talk about how happy you are, the more you open yourself up to judgment. Keep your happiness private, and it will remain pure, untarnished by the opinions of others. Your joy is personal, and it is most powerful when it remains intact by external influences. Silence is the shield that protects your happiness. True happiness is best experienced, not broadcasted. The act of sharing every moment of joy with others can take away from the depth of your happiness. Happiness is most profound when it is quietly experienced, rather than constantly spoken about. Don't feel the need to broadcast your joy for it to be real. Enjoy your happiness quietly, and you'll find it becomes richer and more fulfilling. The more you talk, the less you can truly feel. When you speak constantly about your happiness, you may begin to question it or dilute its intensity. Talking can bring distractions and doubts into your experience. To feel the fullness of joy, embrace silence. It allows the emotion to be felt completely, without interference from your mind or others' words. In the quiet of happiness, you discover its true power. Silence gives you the space to experience happiness fully. By not talking about it, you avoid overthinking or self-doubt, allowing joy to settle deeper. Happiness is most powerful when you are still and present with it. The more you remain silent, the more you allow your joy to transform your life. Happiness thrives in the absence of expectation. When you talk about your happiness, you often place expectations on how others should react or how you should feel. But when you are silent, there are no expectations, only the pure experience of joy. Allow happiness to flow freely without the weight of expectations. In silence, you can truly let go and embrace your happiness fully. Your happiness is your gift to yourself. Don't spoil it with words. Talking about happiness can sometimes make it feel less genuine or forceful. When you enjoy happiness silently, you're honoring it as a precious gift. Don't cheapen your joy by needing to explain or validate it to others. Keep it personal and sacred, and it will remain a constant source of peace. Silence doesn't make happiness smaller, it makes it stronger. The more you talk about your joy, the more you risk diminishing its depth and impact. Silence gives happiness the space to grow and expand. In stillness, joy becomes a deep and powerful force that fills your life. Keep your happiness quiet, and it will become more resilient, more enduring. Let your happiness grow in private before you share it with the world. Not every moment of joy needs to be shared immediately. Take time to savor it in your own quiet space. When you're ready, share it with others in ways that feel authentic to you, not because you feel obligated to announce it. Give your happiness time to bloom before you let it spread. Sometimes the best way to enjoy happiness is to experience it without trying to capture it in words. Happiness is fleeting and precious, and trying to hold on to it through speech can cause it to slip away. When you stop trying to hold on to it or explain it, you allow happiness to take root in your life. Enjoy it in the moment without the need to pin it down with words. Joy is most effective when it's quiet and unspoken. When you share your happiness without announcing it, it becomes more genuine. There is no need to tell the world how happy you are. Simply be, and let others feel it in your presence. Happiness is felt more deeply when it's expressed without the noise of words. Live your joy silently, and it will resonate with others. The best kind of happiness is the one that remains untouched by the outside world. When you stop talking about it, your happiness becomes immune to the opinions and expectations of others. It stays pure and untarnished. Silence is the perfect way to protect your happiness from being influenced or interrupted. Let it be yours and yours alone, quiet but profound. The most lasting happiness is the one that doesn't need to be verbalized. When you try to explain your joy, you create the possibility for it to be questioned or misunderstood. But when you simply live it, you preserve its lasting impact. Let your happiness remain a quiet, unspoken truth that others can feel but not define. It is strongest when it needs no explanation. When you stop talking about happiness, you create space for it to evolve. Constantly discussing how happy you are keeps you anchored in the present moment, but it can prevent you from fully appreciating the depth of your happiness. By embracing silence, you allow your joy to grow, shift, and deepen. Give your happiness the room it needs to change and become more meaningful over time. Silence makes happiness stronger because it removes the clutter. Words can create distractions, unnecessary analysis, or doubts. When you stop talking about your happiness, you remove all that excess, allowing the joy to take root more firmly within you. Silence strips away the excess and lets your true happiness shine.